Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Just wanted to provide some update on materials from last week and this week to come. I think everyone is all set on Flipgrid. There were a couple issues, but I think we got those set. We have our paper that was due on Sunday. Remember, our weeks run Monday to Sunday. Typically, the first week was a little bit different because class started on Saturday, so we had a little bit of extended time, but also remember our last week will be condensed a bit as well. And then we had our quiz, obviously, for last week also. This week, week 2, we have a group assignment, so please, I have the groups listed here. All of the group tools in the classroom are available. Please make sure that you're working well as a group throughout the week. Don't wait until Saturday and Sunday to get things done, because some folks work over the weekend or whatnot and aren't available. So I'd probably suggest reaching out and getting in touch with everybody. Make sure that you're getting your group started. If there are any issues with the groups, I didn't see any at a quick glance, but for some reason the student doesn't appear to be in the class anymore, or if somebody's out there and doesn't have a group, just let me know, and we'll take care of that. Also a reminder, I think I've had most all of you in class before, but whenever we have a group assignment, everyone needs to do an individual self and peer review of their group. It can impact your grade, so that's why it's important everyone participates. I've certainly given people zeros that have not participated in the group. So just be aware of that. That is an important part of the grading for the group assignment as well. So this week we're actually going to be talking about malpractice, medical malpractice, healthcare, tort reform, those types of things. And we have a video, but and obviously our chapter work in the textbook. But one of the things that I wanted to focus on this week, and we'll see that in both the group assignment and in our discussion, is professional and personal responsibility. So in our discussion, we're going to talk about someone that you work with that you see outside of the organization doing something inappropriate. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the discussion in our Flipgrid. And then our assignment this week, the group assignment, is looking at the nurse from Tennessee, from Vanderbilt Medical Center in Nashville, who was involved with a medication error and was prosecuted for reckless homicide. Now I've given you some articles that are attached up above. You can certainly go out and do additional research. This case has been ongoing for a couple of years, so you may have heard about it. If you were in my 1275, you probably heard about it there. But the real key here is that something that most organizations would consider an error, and they would not point blame at somebody in particular, is being prosecuted as a criminal case. So it's kind of a shift from our view in patient safety. And if any of you have taken the patient safety quality class already, you probably are familiar with just culture and zero assignment of blame, those types of things. So this is quite the opposite, and an interesting situation to examine due to that. So what I want you to do is look at the case, tell me 3 points of pros and 3 points of cons. So what's important when we're looking at ethics and law related topics is that you're able to look at both sides of the case. So I want to know 3 points for this prosecution, 3 points that the prosecution doing this type of activity is a good thing, and then 3 points against it, why it's a bad thing. So you may have personal beliefs on one side or the other, but like I said, an important part of any of those legal or ethical analyses is kind of understanding the devil's advocate view. You need to understand the other side. Doesn't mean that you support it, but you need to have understanding of it, keep an open mind about the case. So I want your group to take 3 points for, 3 points against. Like I said, make sure that you are using the research materials that are in the classroom, but you can also look at outside materials. One thing I will say is make sure that you're keeping to what we would consider scholarly resources, especially on the nurses side of the coin. And I'm not sure if we have any nursing majors in the class this time or not, but a lot of the larger nursing groups came out very strongly in an opinion format against this prosecution. Now that can help to inform your opinion, but don't take everything that they say as as gospel. You'll find equally as many people on the other side of the coin saying she was reckless in her activity and hence the reason that she was prosecuted. So just make sure that you're not taking what's considered an opinion as fact, and that's that goes beyond this. You know, a lot of the things we'll look at, especially when we're talking about ethics or gray areas in the law, people feel very strongly one way or the other, but their opinion doesn't make it fact. It's their opinion on things. So so read opinion papers. They're good at informing you of other views that perhaps you wouldn't normally have, but also be aware that those are not necessarily facts on those cases, and will only help to inform your view as opposed to determine your view. So let's go over the quiz from last week. There were only a couple of questions that folks didn't get right, so not much to go over here. But so first question, blank laws govern relationships between people. So so remember that there's kind of three main types of law: public, private, and administrative. Public laws govern the relationships between people and the government, so or organizations and the government. So a lot of what we deal with in healthcare compliance are public laws. So the laws that that the Congress, state legislatures, those types of folks put in place for us are the relationships between, say, our healthcare organization and the federal government or the state government. Those are what are considered public laws. They govern that relationship between the government and government agencies and ourselves. Private laws, which is the answer here, govern relationships between people. So think about, you have a house and your neighbor's dog keeps coming over and making a mess of your lawn. The government doesn't really care about that, except that dog is trespassing on your property. So that's a private law, meaning that it's the relationship between people. People shouldn't be trespassing on your property. Trespass is a private law. So it doesn't mean the government doesn't get involved, because obviously law enforcement could get involved, or you could sue your neighbor or whatever. But it's just, it's a private law because it governs those relationships between people. Administrative law is probably what we deal with most in healthcare compliance, and those are laws that are created by agencies within the government. So CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, all of their regulatory information is considered administrative law. It's not something that our lawmakers got involved in. It's something that CMS will put out a proposed rule. We'll all look at it, review it, make our comments back, much like if there was a bill being debated in Congress, we could reach out to our House of Representatives folks, or to our senators, and say, hey, here's our thoughts on this bill and how we think you should vote. We have that same opportunity with administrative law by reaching out to CMS, telling them, hey, I think this stinks, don't do that, or, oh, this is really great, we really like that, let's try and expand that to other areas. And then ultimately they'll create a final rule, and then that becomes administrative law. So three types: public, private, administrative, and you'll see that both across state and federal types of laws. Obviously, even local, you could have differences there as well. So any legislative body can create law, and you'll have to just look at who is it governing. Is it governing relationships between people, relationships between the government and people or organizations, or is it a regulatory type situation where an agency has created what ultimately becomes law after following the proposed and final rule process? So, but our answer here was private. Next one, I think this is the last one. Common law principle in which courts apply previous decisions to subsequent cases involving similar facts and questions is referred to as, lots of Latin words there for us to look at. The answer here is stare decisis. So it's kind of like a precedent type situation. So when we talk about courts make decisions, and that creates what's known as common law. So so the court makes a decision, it creates common law, which is almost like a legal precedent. And when we take that decision that has been made previously and then apply it to a subsequent case, it's stare decisis. Now this is important because of our assignment for this week, our week 2 assignment on the case for the Vanderbilt nurse, because if they find her guilty, that's going to create some precedent, and it could be applied in future cases, especially for those of you that are in clinical majors, be aware of that. It's of course we always want to be very careful about what we're doing in the workplace, but now we could end up in jail if we make an error, if this were to go forward and she were to actually be found guilty. So stare decisis governs that, and it's really kind of like a legal precedent where they're applying that previous decision to a case that has similar facts. So important concept to be aware of. So that's all we've got for this week. Any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out. In week 4, we will be having a live session. It's optional, although I'd encourage you to come if you have questions. It's really just kind of a midterm check-in. So we'll have a midterm check-in in week 4. I think the date and time are already posted there in week 4. If you can't make it, don't worry about it. Honestly, it depends on if you have stuff to talk about, things you want to ask, especially as we move into doing the final projects and whatnot. I'll be there to answer questions and talk about your topics or whatever it is that you want to talk about, but it's really just kind of a midterm check-in there in week 4 for this class. So, but prior to that, if you have any questions, or even outside of that, if you're unable to make it, just let me know, email, text, call, and I'm happy to help out. I think most of you realize I'm not in Pittsburgh anymore. I'm just a part-time employee now, so I can't see you in the office, but I'm happy to catch up outside of outside of hours. If you're working during the day and you need to chat at night or whenever, just let me know and we can make an appointment and go over whatever questions you might have. So everyone have a good week, and I'll see you all in the classroom. Thanks.